All right, so again, thank you everyone for your patience today getting started. I wanted to welcome you all to this informational webinar on the Clean Energy Improvement Program for the City of Edmonton's commercial stream. My name is Brendan Gray, and I am the CEIP Contractor Management Program Lead at Alberta Municipalities. And I'm also joined today by Lydia Fialka from the City of Edmonton, who is the program coordinator for the Building Energy Retrofit Accelerator. And a few of her colleagues from the City of Edmonton are also have also joined us here, and they'll be available to answer some of your questions should they come up as they relate specifically to the City of Edmonton's program. So, and with that, just as general housekeeping, as I mentioned, this session will be recorded, and the recording and slides will be made available to you after this presentation. The presentation will be about an hour long. Lydia and I will be presenting for about 30 to 45 minutes. We ran a little bit over. Hopefully we have enough time for questions here at the end. But if you do have questions, please do either hold them to the end or enter them into the chat box, and we'll do our best to ensure that that we get those questions answered in the Q&A period. So I just wanted to kick off this webinar by acknowledging that I'm giving this presentation from Calgary, which is situated in Treaty 7 territory, and it is the traditional lands of the Blackfoot Confederacy, as well as the Region 3 Métis. Many of you will be joining from Treaty 6 as well. So I just wanted to begin with this land acknowledgement today. So to start off, I wanted to talk to you about Alberta Municipalities. Alberta Municipalities is a not-for-profit association that's been serving municipalities in Alberta since 1905. And we represent and provide services to municipalities where over 85% of Albertans live. This includes towns, this includes towns, villages, summer villages, cities, and specialized municipalities. And the Sustainability Services Department within Alberta Municipalities is home to the Clean Energy Improvement Program and the Municipal Climate Change Action Center, or the MCCAC. And the MCCAC provides funding and capacity building programs for municipalities, not-for-profits, and school boards, whereas the Clean Energy Improvement Program is targeted towards homeowners and business owners. And Alberta Municipalities is the administrator for CEIP in Alberta, and CEIP regulation guides the design, development, and implementation of the program, and our role in that. So just a little intro on the Clean Energy Improvement Program. The Clean Energy Improvement Program, or CEIP, is Alberta's PACE style program, or Property Assessed Clean Energy Program. It's a market-based financing tool that's designed to increase the uptake of energy efficiency and renewable energy installations. And through CEIP, property owners borrow funds from their municipality to pay, they borrow funds from the municipality to pay for upgrades on their properties, and then they pay that money back on their property tax bills. And it's proven successful in many other jurisdictions throughout mostly Eastern Canada, but also it's been in the States for over 2 decades. And CEIP is different from other financing instruments, and that's because the repayment mechanism, or the Clean Energy Improvement Tax, is tied to the property and not the property owner. So when you go to sell your home, if you're participating in CEIP, the new owner will take over any remaining payments that need to be made based on the upgrades that you had installed on your property. And I guess in this case, we're talking about commercial CEIP, so I shouldn't be saying homes, but I should be saying businesses or buildings. And I should also mention that the CEIP tax is tied to the property, and therefore has a primary lien status. And to note, PACE programs in Canada have had no defaults to date. CEIP is also a municipal program. Municipalities will choose whether or not they want to participate in the program, and they opt in by passing a bylaw. And municipalities contract Alberta municipalities to deliver the program as the program administrator. I'll go into the roles of both the municipality and Alberta municipalities as the administrator in just a few moments here. I wanted to give you an idea of which municipalities we're working with actively and where you can expect clean energy improvement programs to pop up across the province. So we're working at various stages with about 30 or so municipalities at this point. Canmore, St. Albert, Lethbridge, Calgary, Sturgeon County, Drayton Valley, and Grand Prairie, we're actively working with at this point. They're in the design stage, which means they've passed bylaws to enable the program, and we're working on just kind of ironing out some of the details of the program and how those specific programs might differ from the programs that we already have in market. We've launched the program, the residential stream of the program in Rocky Mountain House. We did that late last year, November. And then we launched in Devon and in Edmonton this year. Edmonton, obviously, only the residential stream. And the City of Leduc's looking at launching its residential stream quite soon as well. Of course, you're here today to hear about Edmonton's commercial program launch. So that's what we're going to be talking about here. And we hope to launch this program very soon. So what are some of the benefits of CEIP? So there are three main benefits to this program. Firstly, as a contractor or a vendor who's participating in the program, you'll have increased visibility. That's because all CEIP eligible contractors are listed on our online contractor directory. And this is the place where property owners will go to find contractors for specific upgrades. And you'll be listed on this contractor directory on equal footing with all other contractors. In addition to the increased visibility, you will also get support from us, Alberta municipalities, that will guide you through the program, get you set up and onboarded into the program, support you in helping your customer navigate this program and complete some of the required documentation that will come up throughout the process. And then thirdly, I spoke about this, I think, a little bit, or maybe I alluded to this. CEIP's flexible financing can cover up to 100% of project costs, and that reduces barriers for your customers to pursue more comprehensive retrofits and larger and more numerable renewable installations. And if you offer energy audit services, any kind of professional services related to the design of the upgrades, you'll also, there'll be more money essentially coming your way with a program like this and reduce barriers to entry. So as I said, we'll talk a little bit about the rules here, but the reason why we talk about the administrator and the municipality is because CEIP is a joint effort between the administrator and any participating municipalities. We partner to design and implement local CEIP programs, and we do so to be compliant with the regulation. So in essence, CEIP is a series of local programs, and we try to make programs as consistent as possible across the province, but there are some customizations between municipalities, namely interest rates and upgrade requirements. And obviously today we'll be talking to you about Edmonton's customization of the program, if you will, specifically. So for its part, Alberta Municipalities is the central point of contact for municipalities, contractors, and property owners. And we manage CEIP eligible contractors, or qualified contractors, as we call them in this program. And then we publish and maintain that online directory of contractors, as I mentioned. Only contractors who become qualified contractors are eligible to participate in the program and install upgrades or complete any kind of professional or incidental services. And only those contractors will be listed in our directory. In addition to contractor management, the Alberta municipality supports municipalities as they develop their own programs, supporting them with passing their bylaws and funding applications. And we take on the majority of program administration duties, such as project application and payment processing, as well, excuse me, as well as website management and customer service. So Edmonton, in this case, the City of Edmonton, is responsible for drafting and passing the CEIP bylaw to enable the program as well as setting the financing terms for projects in its community, executing the financing agreement between the municipality and the property owner, and ultimately levying and collecting the clean energy improvement tax, which is the repayment of the financeable costs broken out over the terms set out in the financing agreement. And Edmonton passed its bylaw back in August 2021 and included both residential and commercial streams in their bylaws. So that's one less step that we have to go through here with the City of Edmonton as we approach launch. Now, with that, I'm going to pass things off to Lydia here to speak to you about the Building Energy Retrofit Accelerator, also known as BERA, and the Business Energy Benchmarking Program with the City of Edmonton.
Awesome. Thanks, Brendan. I am getting a note that I can't share my screen while you're sharing. So if you don't mind stopping, and then awesome. Brendan, do you mind just giving me a nod if you can see my screen? Perfect. So hi, everyone. Again, my name is Lydia. I'm really happy to be here today. And I'll be sharing a bit more about the city's commercial programs and how they're integrated into CEIP. So let's jump right in. CEIP participants whose upgrades are eligible for City of Edmonton rebates will be required to participate in the respective programs. All City of Edmonton rebates that a participant is eligible to receive for their upgrades will, at the city's discretion, be used to reduce the clean energy improvement charge, and that'll be paid directly to the property tax account and or to the applicant. It'll depend on the application itself. Very simply, the rebates will be used to reduce that overall financing. As Brendan has already started explaining, there are a few moving parts. And so we want to ensure a smooth experience for all participants. And for that reason, participants will solely communicate with Alberta municipalities and their qualified contractors. So I'll share some more details about BERA rebates later on in the presentation today, but first wanted to give a tangible example of how rebates are being used to reduce the CEIP financing. So as you can see on the screen here in this given example, each of the listed upgrades in the CEIP application are in fact eligible for the City of Edmonton's rebate program. And so they have a corresponding rebate value associated with them. If we sum the individual costs, we get a total project value of $640,000 in this case. And after applying $137,500 in rebates, the CEIP financing is reduced to just over $500,000. So Brendan will go over in more detail about the Energy Savings for Business program. What I wanted to share was that participants may apply for financial rebates, grants, and incentives for any upgrade that's a part of their project. Very importantly, though, any programs that are not offered by the City of Edmonton, so ones that are external to us, those will not have an impact on the calculation of the Clean Energy Improvement Charge. So an example of a program that's external to us is the Energy Savings for Business program. So the Building Energy Retrofit Accelerator, or BERA for short, is the City of Edmonton's commercial rebate program, and it's designed to help commercial, light industrial, and institutional buildings improve their energy efficiency. BERA was launched in June of 2020, and it's still in market today. BERA has three main objectives, the first being facilitating deep green retrofits in commercial buildings, encouraging engagement in current and future climate initiatives, and finally stimulating market transformation, really with the goal of those deep energy retrofits becoming the new market norm. In terms of BERA eligibility, this is aligned with CEIP, so not to worry there. We've done that work ahead of time. In terms of BERA eligibility, buildings must be one of the following, so commercial, institutional, common spaces in multi-family residential buildings or light industrial buildings. Square feet, or buildings must be over 1,000 square feet and located within City of Edmonton limits. And finally, building owners must have participated in the Building Energy Benchmarking Program, or BEB for short. If you're unfamiliar with building energy benchmarking. This is another City of Edmonton program, and it's effectively a precursor to BERA in that it helps building owners better understand their building's performance and opportunity areas. Participants will get that understanding by collecting and sharing accurate whole building utility data, and they will upload this into Energy Start Portfolio Manager. Through BEB, participants can also access a rebate of up to $10,000 for an ASHRAE Level 2 audit. And just to really hit this point home, participation in BEB is mandatory to access BERA rebates. So let's chat a bit more about the rebate values as well as eligible measures. So I would encourage everyone to take a look at the eligible measures list that's posted on edmonton.ca for BERA. It also includes the current measure categories, which you can see on the slide here. I did want to share today that we will be posting an expanded eligible measures list for BERA near the end of May. So please stay tuned and check back for more information on that. In terms of the dollar value, there are a couple ceilings that we need to keep in mind when it comes to BERA. Rebates are up to a maximum of 50% of equipment and labor costs. There's a minimum rebate value of $1,000 for projects and a maximum rebate that depends on whether or not the project includes the installation of a heat pump. So without a heat pump, the cap is $75,000, and with a heat pump, that cap is increased to $125,000. There's also a bundling bonus for projects that complete upgrades from multiple measure categories. So an example there could be lighting and HVAC. That would be 2 measure categories. And the bonusing is 5 or 10%. And that would be on top of the $75,000 or $125,000. So let's walk through this CEIP BERA integration. The blue arrows on the screen, and you'll see more come up shortly, those indicate CEIP program flow, and that's participant-led. Everything beneath the blue arrows is just additional information on how the City of Edmonton programs are integrated. So the first step is CEIP, the first step in CEIP is pre-qualification. Here, participants should be familiar with both BERA and CEIP program information, terms and conditions, program user guides, eligible measures, and they will be asked to supply proof that an ASHRAE Level 2 audit has been scheduled. At the second step, CEIP, this is the project application form. Here, participants must submit an ASHRAE Level 2 report and contractor quotes. The City of Edmonton will then issue a memo with estimated rebate amounts that's based on that project application and will reserve those funds. And if the project is approved, project and clean energy improvement agreements are signed, and the city will then enroll the participant in BERA. And we will also provide support for building energy benchmarking. The third CEIP step is upgrade installation. Here, an installation authorization notice will be issued, and upgrades are completed in accordance with the respective agreements and terms and conditions. And then change orders can occur if necessary. Following installation, an upgrade completion form is completed, and participants will be asked to submit itemized invoices, documentation for each upgrade. The City of Edmonton will submit the rebate application to BERA on behalf of the participant, and we will also issue a revised memo with final rebate amounts, as well as an amended clean energy improvement agreement. So some adjustments to the BERA process for CEIP participants. ASHRAE Level 2 audit, it is required, and that may be eligible for CEIP financing. There's a minimum of 3 upgrades that are required for CEIP eligibility. BERA rebate funds are pre-approved, and they would be held specifically for CEIP participants for up to 12 months. BERA terms and conditions, assignment of incentive forms, those have all been integrated into the Clean Energy Improvement Agreement. Again, to reiterate, City of Edmonton will apply for the participant or will apply to BERA on behalf of the participant. And then those funds will be used to reduce the CEIP financing. So I wanted to close the portion of my presentation today with some contractor considerations. All upgrades must be completed by a CEIP qualified contractor, very important. Contractors should be familiar with both CEIP and BERA eligibility criteria. Contractors will also be asked to provide any and all necessary documentation to building owners. So depending on the upgrade itself, could include spec sheets, pictures of the installed products, Energy Star logos, and so forth. And finally, something to keep in mind is as we go through CEIP projects, if there are any changes, timelines, costs, so on, those do need to be pre-approved by Alberta municipalities. So thanks for listening, and I'll pass it back to you, Brendan.
Thanks, Lydia. Appreciate you going into detail on the building energy saving retrofit and business energy benchmarking programs. Let me just share my screen here again. And we are going to just quickly go over the Emissions Reductions Alberta program. All right, so I believe you can see my screen here. It says it's sharing, so I will go ahead here. All right, so the Energy Savings for Business program, also known as ESB, is an Emissions Reduction Alberta program, and it gives eligible Alberta businesses quick access to incentives for cost-effective efficiency measures. And eligible businesses can access up to $250,000 per project and up to $1 million per parent company to purchase and install energy-efficient technologies that can reduce emissions, decrease operating costs, help businesses grow their operations, and become more competitive. And just like CEIP and BERA, contractors are vital to the success of the ESB program. Contractors can help their clients find even more savings than they would otherwise by stacking rebates from both BERA and ESB eligible technologies. To get started, contractors will need to register with and be approved by the ESB program to be able to participate. And once complete, contractors can help their customers purchase and install their eligible technologies and guide them through the application journey. To help you even further, ERA offers an application assist tool to everyone working on an ESB or ETP application. And to learn more about ESB, ETP, and application assist, you can visit the website at eralberta.ca/ESB. And just give me a moment and I will actually put that into the chat here. All right, so back to CEIP. Just at a high level, I know Lydia just went over a few of the steps that are involved in the process, but I think at a higher level, it's important to know how funds move through the program. For example, how folks are paying back the CEIP charge and that sort of thing. So we'll start at the top left here. Number one, the municipality works with Alberta municipalities after a bylaw is passed and funding is sourced to develop and launch the program. And then once the program is launched at number two, a property owner will submit a pre-qualification application online. They'll complete their energy audit, ASHRAE level 2 audit, and potentially also a feasibility study, which I'll go into more detail here in a moment. And then they'll select their upgrades and qualify contractor. Once they've done that, the property owner will submit their application, and if it's approved, the clean energy improvement and project agreements will be signed, and the qualified contractor will begin the installation of the upgrade based on the receipt of that installation authorization notice that Lydia mentioned just moments ago. Once the upgrades have been installed, or once an upgrade has been installed, because we do go on an upgrade by upgrade basis, the property owner will submit a upgrade completion form and associated documents, and we will use that to confirm that the upgrades have been completed. And in certain circumstances and for certain projects, there will also be a site visit before the contractor is paid. Once everything has been completed, the project is done, we've approved it, the municipality will then record the clean energy improvement tax on the property tax roll of that property owner. And then all funds that are repaid through property taxes will become available again to finance new CEIP projects. And I say that because that's how CEIP is intended to work. Of course, Edmonton's program is only a 2-year pilot. So once those 2 years are up, we've been in discussions with Edmonton on potentially extending the program out, but that remains to be seen. So I do just want to mention that in case you do operate in other municipalities, that is the way that the program is intended to work, is to kind of recycle the funds. All right, so let's talk about some property eligibility in the City of Edmonton. So for a property to be eligible, it must be located within the City of Edmonton. It also must be insured with standard commercial broad form property insurance and have $2 million in commercial general liability insurance. The property also must be privately owned, and the property owner must be able to pay property taxes on that property as well, because we're talking about a commercial stream of the program. All eligible properties must be classified as non-residential or farmland. And some examples of this are like office buildings, retail properties, accommodation properties, and what is called not designated industrial properties that are used for manufacturing, warehousing, distribution, and the like. In addition to this, to be eligible, a property must be an existing property that has had a valid occupancy permit for at least 1 year, and the property must also not be in foreclosure. And at this time, new construction is not eligible, and we consider newly constructed buildings to be less than 6 months old following the date of the first occupancy. And now on to participant eligibility. Some of the minimum requirements that the City of Edmonton has is that the applicant must be the current legal owner or owners of the property and must have consent from all other property owners. The property owner must also have previously owned property for at least 5 years before submitting their pre-qualification, and they must be current on their property tax payments and any outstanding property secured debt. If the property has a mortgage, or if the property owner has a mortgage on the property, they must receive consent from their mortgage lender if it is applicable, and they must not be in bankruptcy or insolvency. And the City of Edmonton may have some additional criteria at the time of launch of the program, so it's important to check the Edmonton CEIP webpage at myceip.ca for more details. And this will be also outlined in the city's terms and conditions once they are made available. So we touched upon the ASHRAE audits and the feasibility studies just briefly there. So I want to go into a little bit more detail, as if you're familiar with the residential stream of the program, this is, I think, one of the biggest differences between the two, in addition to different upgrades, obviously. But one of the requirements of the ASHRAE audit and feasibility studies, or I should say of the project, is that all CEIP projects must have this ASHRAE level 2 audit, and the audit has to be completed before the participant submits their project application form. So basically, between the time the applicant receives pre-qualification approval stating that they're eligible, their property is eligible, and before they actually submit the form that outlines which upgrades they'd like to include and who they would like to work with. Audits should only be completed once a participant is pre-qualified by Alberta municipalities to avoid your customers potentially putting out money for something that they're not actually eligible for. And participants who completed an ASHRAE level 2 audit within 18 months before the pre-qualification submission date are not required to complete another energy audit. Again, that's to avoid making people pay for an audit that should reflect very closely what the building is currently like at the time of submitting the pre-qualification application. A couple more requirements here. Feasibility studies are required for all renewable energy projects except for solar PV. and the program T's and C's will outline the feasibility study requirements in those cases. A qualified contractor also must be completing any professional services. So that means if you were completing an ASHRAE audit or an energy or a feasibility study, you must be qualified. There's also the post-project memo, and that's required once the project is completed and all upgrades have been installed. And this is to confirm energy savings and GHG emissions reductions. Here's some information related to the costs of the audits and studies. So participants are required to pay for any professional services, including the audits and the studies, out of pocket. And participants can request to finance professional service costs in the project application form. And if they're approved, the participant will be reimbursed once the project is complete, and the cost will be added to the total project financing amount that will be I guess listed or included on the financing agreement. The participants must also provide Alberta municipalities with a copy of the invoice for these professional services, the proof of payment, and the report for the completed professional service as well. Lydia covered some of the supporting documents that your property owner is required to submit to us, and that in turn you're actually required to provide to them. And this helps us to demonstrate or prove that an upgrade meets its eligibility requirements and that we're staying in line with what is required of us by regulation. So some of the supporting documents include minimum efficiency standards, performance standards, certification, and warranty standards. And these are listed actually on our website currently for residential upgrades, but our commercial upgrades list has not yet been posted. But to give you an idea of the kinds of things that we look for, you can check out the residential upgrades list on our website, and I can also link you to that at the end of the presentation here. So for, as I mentioned, for document submission, you'll provide these documents to the property owner, and then the property owner will submit those documents to us for our approval. Wanted to touch on warranties here, as they're a pretty important part of the program, and what is required of the contractor in relation to warranties is laid out here. So all upgrades, products, and services that are provided by a qualified contractor must have a manufacturer and supplier's warranty. It must be consistent with industry standard. And the most important piece here, with I guess both the manufacturers and suppliers warranty, as well as warranties for defects in material and labor, is that they must be in place for a period of at least 1 year from the time of installation. And this manufacturer's warranty must also be transferable to the property owner and any subsequent property owner as well. Some upgrades will also have additional warranty requirements that are also described on the online eligible upgrade list. So for example, solar PV modules have to have a 25-year minimum warranty period. Again, this is all outlined on our website. So eligible upgrades, requirements of eligible upgrades are only upgrades listed on the CEIP website are eligible for CEIP financing. And these upgrades are really anything that we can prove increase energy efficiency or the use of renewable energy on the property. That's really our baseline for being compliant with regulation. And there's a wide range of upgrades that are eligible for this program. In fact, there's many more upgrades that are eligible for the commercial program than the residential program. And you'll be able to see that once that list goes live. But some of the categories of the types of upgrades that you'll see in the commercial eligible upgrades list are on this slide here. In the City of Edmonton, and the commercial program, some additional requirements here are any energy efficiency upgrades that the property owner wants to finance must be recommended in an ASHRAE level 2 audit report, which is why we asked for that report to be provided to us so we can prove that it actually was a recommendation. And in the City of Edmonton, very importantly, a minimum of 3 upgrades must be installed as a single project. All right, some additional considerations here. for contractors. The quote that's provided at the time of project application, when we're trying to determine if this project with the upgrades are eligible, if the upgrades are eligible, if the contractor is eligible to provide services, we do ask for a quote, and this quote should itemize the cost of equipment to be installed, any efficiency specifications, the equipment make or model number, the size, and the equipment costs. And this should be, again, provided to the participant so that they can include that in their project application. When it comes to down deposits and milestone payments, which are, I think even more so than in the residential stream, an important consideration, participants are required and are responsible for paying for any deposits or milestone payments requested by the qualified contractor out of pocket. So they can do that, they can finance that through a loan or a line of credit, or essentially pay for it any way they see fit. But if the project is approved, the participant can request to finance the costs associated with those deposits and milestone payments. Once we confirm that the project is good to go, the cost will be reimbursed and then added to the total financing amount as well. Some eligible expenses. We have three categories of costs as they relate to this program. Firstly, we have capital costs of eligible upgrades. So that includes equipment costs, installation costs. And then we have the professional service costs that I alluded to earlier, the ASHRAE Level 2 audit and the feasibility study. Those are costs that a property owner can include on their project application, and we'll consider that in the total financing amount that we approve. There's also incidental costs, and I haven't talked about that yet. Incidental costs are essentially any costs that that may be required for a particular project, but will not necessarily be required in every single project. So for example, here, I think one of the best examples is a roof repair. So the cost associated with a roof repair that is required for a solar PV installation, a rooftop solar PV installation, can be financed through this program. To note though, the financing will go up to a maximum of 15% of capital costs. So anything above and beyond that will not be able to be financed through this program. And that leads me into the financing terms here. So in the City of Edmonton, the maximum financing term is 20 years, but the financing terms in general are upgrade dependent and based on the effective useful life of that product. So essentially that means the lifetime of the product. It could also be associated with the warranty that's typically offered with the product. But you'll see, you can see EULs, we call them, or effective useful lifetimes, from anywhere between 5 to 20 years in the case of Edmonton. Also, there's some limits to what size of projects will be financed or how much of that project will be financed. So the project's capital costs to be approved must be at least $3,000. And for non-residential properties, so that's like manufacturing, commercial, retail, those buildings can have their capital costs of up to 1 million financed through the program. And then for farmland properties, that's 300,000. So that said, the actual annual financing tax, like the amount that can be financed through the program, is actually limited by the amount of property tax that's paid annually. So we'll actually look at the total project costs, the capital costs, and then we'll compare that to what was paid in property taxes the previous year. And if it looks like the annual payment for your CEIP project is going to be above or at least double what your property tax was last year, that difference will have to be paid by the property owner out of pocket, because we're not able to finance that piece. All right, so before work can begin, I wanted to lay out a few of the things that are required of you or that you should have your eyes on as qualified contractors. So firstly is the contractor document verification. So we do, when you apply to become a qualified contractor, we do ask for a number of things in the application. We do approve you based on the information that you've provided and the terms and conditions that you've agreed to. But once you're named on a project application, we will ask for proof of WCB and insurance. If you're an installer, if you offer professional service, we may ask for that right after we approve your application. But this is just to save you time in case you do get listed and for whatever reason you don't have a customer for 2 years or something like that. We're not going to ask for your insurance every single year, even if you're not providing any services at that time. I mentioned the project agreement here because this is something that's required by regulation. This project agreement is a tri-party agreement that's signed between the property owner, Alberta municipalities, and the contractor, and essentially replaces any contract that you would otherwise have with your customer. And this again is the requirement of the regulation, and this is something that's signed once we've approved the project application, and the signature of this project agreement is mandatory before we issue this installation authorization notice, which is essentially notice of the project being approved and of the property owner's ability to move forward with a contractor to have these upgrades installed. Just a few more details on upgrade completion. The project, commercial projects must be completed within 1 year of the installation authorization notice being sent out. And any potential changes to a project will need to be approved by a change order. This is something that you can let your property owner know, and they can get in touch with us to ensure that they are completing their change order appropriately. At the upgrade completion, the time of upgrade completion, we will be asking for an invoice very similar to the quote that I spoke about earlier, that itemizes the installed equipment make and model numbers, the size, installation date, and etc. There may be additional supporting documentation that you'll need to submit for each upgrade, so that will be listed on our eligible upgrades list on our website as well, so you can check that out once that's been made available. And the property owner will submit this upgrade completion form and package with the invoice and other supporting documentation once substantial performance is reached by that upgrade. So once essentially installation has been completed. For contractor payment, as I mentioned, site visits may be completed before payment goes out, but we are aware of and we have designed our program based on being compliant with the Prompt Payment Act, which requires us to be paying you, the contractor, within 28 days of the receipt of a proper invoice. So essentially an invoice that contains all the information that we require. That will be the time at which we kind of start that timer of the 28 days. And nextly, I just wanted to give you an idea of why you might want to become or why you need to become a qualified contractor. So we've talked about benefits. We've talked about the process that you and your customer will go through and some of the requirements of the property, the participant, and the eligible upgrades. But essentially, you need to become a qualified contractor and apply to become part of this program because it is required by regulation. Any person who is providing services related to the installation of a clean energy improvement must be a qualified contractor. And you, as a qualified contractor, will be listed on this directory, and that's something that's also written into the regulation. So how do you become a qualified contractor? Well, firstly, our website, myceip.ca, is a central hub, as I mentioned before, for everything related to the program. And one of these things that our website allows us to do is to collect information from you when you submit your application, to then process your application and ensure that we have all the information that we need to move ahead. So as a qualified contractor, or as a prospective qualified contractor, you will head to our website at myceip.ca. You'll navigate to the For Contractors page. You can read some of the information there as it pertains to you in particular. And you'll find a link to our contractor application page. You'll fill that out, submit it, and then we'll review it. We may ask you for a few questions on your GST number if there's any issues there, or on ratings that we're able to find publicly. Once that's approved, we will send out a link to a training module that you will read through. It covers what I've gone over here today and what Lydia's gone over today in greater detail. And once you've completed those training modules, there'll be a link to an onboarding quiz that you'll need to pass with at least 80%. And it's at that point that you'll be listed on the directory. To become a qualified contractor, or to maintain your qualified contractor status, you'll need to have active WCB Alberta standing, good standing general commercial liability insurance with active coverage for all CEIP qualified contractor related activities. You must agree to abide by the contractor terms and conditions, the marketing guidelines, and the code of conduct and issues escalation framework. These are all documents that are found on our website as well. And they're linked to on our contractor application page. Finally, you must also agree to sign a CEIP project agreement. And I should mention here that it's only the primary qualified contractor that's required to sign this this agreement. We say that, or we make that clear, because all contractors, including subcontractors that you may hire, must be qualified contractors and listed on our directory. But only you, as the lead on the installation, are responsible for signing this. So with that, I just wanted to point you to our application page. You can find it at myceip.ca/contractor. And then our contractor directory page too, if you're interested in seeing what the directory looks like. It is going to be updated as we move closer to the actual launch of this program. Essentially what we'll be adding is just a way to filter based on the type of property that you'll be completing your project on. So with that, I would like to thank you and open the floor to any questions. I know we don't have too much time here, my apologies. So I'm going to start by looking at the chat here and seeing if there's any new questions that I may not have answered. Okay, there's a question here about recycling funds. So just let me reread it here to ensure I understand. So when I mentioned recycling funds through the program, that will not actually be applicable in this case here. Again, Edmonton's a pilot program. In other municipalities, they may not be taking that approach, in which case the program is designed so that the funds that are collected will be put towards financing other projects into the future. And so these funds will just kind of be recycled in that sense. But again, for the City of Edmonton, it's a pilot program. So after the 2 years, it's yet to be determined what place this program will have in the City of Edmonton. So thank you for that question. We have questions about specific technologies, specific HVAC equipment. Will it be covered? I can't go into detail about that today because the eligible upgrades list has not been finalized, but those are great questions. And we do hope to get that list up to you before the program launches so you can have a look at it and provide us any feedback that you might have if you think that there's something missing there, or if there's some requirements that that you might have some concerns with. We'll be happy to take those questions and address those concerns that you might have at that time. We have a question about whether or not a builder can be qualified to apply as a qualified contractor. So I might need a little bit more information about this, but I can potentially, I can speak to how I understand this question. I mentioned new builds are not eligible for the commercial stream of the City of Edmonton's program. So if you're building from scratch, the costs associated with that are not eligible for this program. If you are a property owner but also qualified contractor, you can do both in this program. You can be a participating property owner and a participating or qualified contractor. In some cases, if you own a company and you want to do work on your house, you can contract that company to do it. However, you still need to go through the process of signing that project agreement, making sure everything's above board. Hopefully that answers that question. I don't know if there's any other questions here. I just realized I didn't give you the opportunity to unmute yourselves. So I will do that in case someone wants to, if anyone wants to speak up. Here we go. And I guess I'll just remind you as well, if you do want to speak up, that that this is being recorded, so your voice will be recorded and shared with other folks who receive the recording of this presentation. No questions. Hopefully that means we were very thorough in providing information. It was clear and somewhat concise, maybe not super concise, but this is a complex program, and especially as it interacts with existing rebate programs. I can totally understand that there's a lot of complexity there. And I think one thing that we really want to drive home is that we have tried to set this up to make it as simple as possible, and we are here for you to support you through this. I see there's another question here. So, oh no, not a question, just a well-wisher. Thank you so much. I should mention here again, or just highlight that hello@myceip.ca is the best place to reach out for just general questions about the program. If you're wondering about particular upgrade, we might be able to provide you with some information there. Or if you're wondering when a program might be coming to your municipality, if you don't actually live in the city of Edmonton, we might be able to answer your questions there as well. So that's really the best place to reach us if you do have questions after this presentation today. I want to also mention that if you have specific questions about the rebate programs offered through the City of Edmonton, you can reach out to them specifically. Lydia, I don't know if you have, I think you, last webinar yesterday, you provided an email address. So maybe we can share that again. I also will be sending out a follow-up email with some of this information that I'm providing right now, as well as a link to the slides and the recording of today's presentation, so you can reference it at a later date and share it with any of your colleagues who might not have been able to attend today. So I think with that, thanks, Lydia. So I think with that, maybe well, I suppose we have 2 more minutes, but I don't want to keep people on if there aren't any more questions. Yeah, so I think with that, we'll close out today's presentation. Again, thank you so much for your patience in the beginning. I hope you weren't panicking in the waiting room of the Zoom, waiting for something to happen there. So I just want to thank you again for your time today and your questions and your attention. And I really hope to see your applications come through and have you involved in the program. So thank you again and have a great day.